Captain Ariana Miles stood in front of the towering glass doors of Skyreach Airlines headquarters, her black pilot's uniform crisp, her gold-striped shoulders gleaming under the morning sun. The world inside those doors was supposed to be her world, a place she had earned through grit, sleepless nights, and countless flight hours. But that morning, everything she believed about her career, her worth, and the company she had given her life to was about to shatter. She was scheduled to command Flight 237, a transatlantic route from New York to London, one of Skyreach's most prestigious flights. But as she walked toward the crew entrance, a young security officer stepped in her way. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said, glancing uncertainly at her ID badge. "This area is for airline personnel only." Ariana blinked, taken aback. "I am airline personnel," she replied, holding out her captain's ID. "Captain Ariana Miles, Flight 237, you can check the manifest." The guard frowned, radioing his superior. Moments later, a middle-aged supervisor in a navy blazer arrived, his expression already dismissive. "Ma'am," he said coldly, "we've had a lot of imposters lately. You'll need to wait outside while we confirm your credentials." Ariana's stomach tightened. She'd flown this route dozens of times. Every flight attendant, every co-pilot, even most of the ground staff knew her. Yet as she looked around that morning, something was different. New faces, stiff stares, and the unmistakable hum of disbelief. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Her first officer, a young white man named Kyle, walked by and froze when he saw her standing there. "Captain Miles, why are you outside?" "Apparently," she said, forcing a smile that barely hid her humiliation, "I'm not allowed into my own airline today." He laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, until he saw the look in her eyes. "This is ridiculous," Kyle muttered, stepping inside to vouch for her. But the supervisor stopped him. "Sir, we'll handle this. Please proceed to the crew lounge." That word, sir, it stung more than the cold wind biting her cheeks. He didn't call her captain, didn't even acknowledge her title. She wasn't a colleague to him. She was just another face to question. When she finally was allowed in, nearly an hour later, she was met not with apologies but silence. The flight operations manager, Mr. Danner, handed her a paper and said flatly, "You've been temporarily grounded pending administrative review." Ariana's heart dropped. "Grounded? For what?" He didn't look up. "We've received complaints. That's all I can say right now." Complaints? Her record was spotless. No disciplinary actions, no failed evaluations. She'd even won the company's Excellence in Leadership Award just months ago. She could feel every pair of eyes in the lounge burning into her back as she walked away. Not one person spoke up, not one. As she reached the parking lot, the tears she'd held in finally spilled. For the first time in years, Captain Ariana Miles, one of the few black female pilots in commercial aviation, felt small. But even through the humiliation, a fire began to burn. "If they want to push me out," she whispered to herself, gripping her pilot's cap tightly, "they'll regret ever underestimating me." That day, Ariana didn't just walk away from Skyreach Airlines. She walked toward something greater, something that would shake the entire industry to its core. And this was only the beginning. A week had passed since Captain Ariana Miles had been temporarily grounded, yet not a single call or explanation came from Skyreach Airlines. Her uniform still hung neatly by the door, the same one she'd ironed that morning before everything fell apart. Each time she walked past it, her heart twisted. 15 years. That's how long she had flown for Skyreach. From her very first day as a co-pilot on regional flights to commanding international routes, she had earned every promotion through sheer determination. But in that sterile corporate building, all those years had vanished in an instant. Ariana sat at her kitchen table, sipping cold coffee, her mind racing. She replayed every interaction from that morning. The guard's hesitation, the supervisor's sneer, the way Danner couldn't even look her in the eye. There was something bigger behind it, and she was going to find out what. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Tara, one of her closest friends and a flight attendant at Skyreach. "Ari, word around HQ is that someone filed a complaint saying you forged your pilot credentials. They're calling it an internal investigation." Ariana froze. "Forged?" she whispered, anger flaring in her chest. "They know that's impossible." I trained at the academy with half of their senior captains. I know. Everyone knows. But they're not saying anything. They're scared, Ari. I heard your file's been pulled from the system. It's like they're trying to erase you. The message hit like a punch. Erase her. That's what it felt like, as if she never existed. For the next few days, Ariana made calls, sent emails, even contacted the pilot union, but no one gave her answers. The company spokesperson only said, "We're reviewing internal procedures." That night, she sat on her couch, the city lights flickering through her window. Her father's old flight wings lay in her hand, the ones he'd pinned on her the day she became a captain. "You'll face turbulence in life too, baby girl," he'd told her. "But remember, pilots don't give up, they navigate." That memory lit a spark. If Skyreach wanted to bury her, she'd dig up everything they were trying to hide. The next morning, Ariana put on her uniform again. Not to fly, but to fight. She drove straight to the headquarters, walked past the same security guard who now avoided her gaze, and went straight to HR. "Captain Miles," the HR manager stammered, startled by her confidence. "I'm here to clear my name," Ariana said, her voice calm but firm. "You've accused me of forging credentials. I want to see the complaint, the evidence, and the name behind it." The manager hesitated. "That's confidential." "Not anymore," Ariana shot back. "You're accusing a woman who's logged over 12,000 flight hours and trained half your current pilots. If you're going to destroy my career, you'll at least tell me who's holding the knife." The HR manager's hands trembled slightly as she pulled up the file. Ariana's eyes scanned the screen and froze. The complaint had been filed by Mr. Danner himself, the same operations manager who grounded her. His note read, "Suspicious activity detected. Unverified credentials. Possible misrepresentation." Ariana felt a rush of disbelief and fury. Danner had mentored her once. He'd even congratulated her when she became the first black woman to captain an A380 for Skyreach, but now he was accusing her of fraud. "Print that," she said quietly, "and send a copy to my attorney." As she left the building, reporters waiting outside snapped photos. Rumors of her suspension had leaked online. But Ariana didn't hide her face. She looked straight into the cameras, eyes blazing. "They can take my title," she said under her breath, "but not my truth." That night, she opened her laptop and started typing. She gathered her records, her certifications, training history, awards, everything. But as she dug deeper, she found something shocking. Danner had recently approved multiple safety violations, covering up technical failures to protect the company's image. She'd seen some of those reports before, flagged them in fact. Now it made sense. They weren't just silencing her for who she was. They were silencing her for what she knew. Ariana leaned back in her chair, the glow of her computer screen lighting her determined face. "You wanted me grounded, Danner?" she murmured. "Then watch what happens when I start flying on my own terms." For the first time in weeks, she smiled, not with joy, but with purpose, because Captain Ariana Miles was done waiting for permission to rise. Captain Ariana Miles didn't sleep that night. The clock struck 3 a.m., but her eyes were locked on the glowing laptop screen, sifting through hundreds of internal documents, flight reports, and safety logs she downloaded during her years with Skyreach. Each line told a story, one the company had buried under layers of silence and fear. Her discovery from the night before kept replaying in her head. Mr. Danner had covered up multiple maintenance failures. Some of those planes were still flying, and now she knew why he wanted her gone. She'd always been outspoken about safety and ethics, and Danner hated anyone who questioned him, especially someone like her. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Tara. "Ari, don't come to HQ. They're saying you leaked company data." Ariana blinked. "Leaked?" she whispered. "They're trying to turn this on me." That morning, social media was flooded with half-truths and lies. An anonymous post claimed that a disgruntled former pilot had tried to sell company secrets. Skyreach's PR team moved fast, painting Ariana as unstable, angry, and vindictive. Her inbox exploded with messages, some hateful, others supportive. But one email stood out. It came from an investigative journalist, a man named Eli Navarro, known for exposing corporate corruption. "Captain Miles, I believe you. I've been investigating Skyreach for over a year. If you have evidence, we can bring the truth to light." Ariana hesitated. She had the evidence, but going public meant risking everything. Still, something inside her whispered, "They took your wings. Now show them you can still soar." That afternoon, she met Eli at a quiet coffee shop downtown. He was calm, composed, and spoke with the steady confidence of someone who'd seen the dark side of power. "I've traced 3 safety violations to Skyreach," he told her, sliding a folder across the table. 2 mechanical failures and 1 mid-flight engine loss. Danner signed off all of them as resolved. Ariana opened the folder. Her stomach dropped. These were the same issues she'd reported months earlier, reports Danner had misplaced. "They grounded you because you knew too much," Eli said. "They couldn't risk you talking." Ariana's hands trembled as she realized how deep the deception ran. "Eli, those flights are still operational. If something happens," he nodded grimly. "That's why we need to act fast." They spent hours cross-checking files, gathering witness statements, and verifying records. Eli recorded every detail. When Ariana finally looked up, the cafe was nearly empty. "You understand," she said quietly. "They'll come after both of us for this." He smiled faintly. "I've been chased by worse. But people like you, brave enough to stand up when it costs everything, make it worth it." That night, Eli's news report went live. Exclusive: Skyreach Airlines under federal investigation after safety cover-up. It went viral in hours. Ariana's name trended worldwide, not as a disgraced pilot but as a whistleblower who dared to speak the truth. The company scrambled to issue statements denying her claims. But soon documents and testimonies from other employees began surfacing. The truth had taken flight. At dawn, Ariana drove to the small airfield where she'd first learned to fly. As she stood beside a modest twin-engine plane, the sunrise painted the sky in orange and gold. She ran her hand over the cool metal and smiled softly. "You can take away a title," she whispered, "but not purpose." Her phone rang. It was Eli. "The FAA wants to talk," he said. "They've opened a full inquiry. Danner's name is at the top of the list." For a moment, Ariana said nothing. The sound of distant engines filled the silence. "Thank you," she finally said, her voice trembling. "But this isn't about revenge anymore. It's about every pilot they've silenced." She ended the call, put on her sunglasses, and watched a Skyreach plane pass overhead. She didn't feel anger anymore, just clarity. In that moment, she realized something powerful. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find the truth. And Ariana Miles had found hers, 30,000 feet above the lies that tried to bury her. The news about Skyreach Airlines spread like wildfire. Every major outlet was running the same headline: "Black female pilot exposes airline scandal. Corporate executives under investigation." For the first time in weeks, Captain Ariana Miles felt seen. Not as a victim, but as a voice. But behind the applause and sympathy, a darker storm was forming. Within 48 hours, Skyreach's lawyers launched a public relations counterattack. They held press conferences, released edited statements, and flooded the internet with headlines calling her a disgruntled former employee seeking revenge. Worse, Danner himself appeared on live television. He spoke smoothly, dressed in a tailored suit, pretending to be calm and concerned. "It saddens me," he said, "that a once promising pilot would resort to lies and leaks. Skyreach operates with the highest standards of safety and integrity." Ariana watched the broadcast from her living room, fists clenched. "Integrity?" she whispered bitterly. "You grounded me for telling the truth." But that wasn't all. The next morning, she received a call from her bank. Her accounts had been temporarily frozen due to a fraud investigation. Her personal email was hacked, her phone flooded with hate messages. Some even included threats. It became clear Skyreach wasn't just trying to silence her anymore. They wanted to destroy her. Tara called her, voice trembling. "Ari, they're firing anyone who talks to reporters. They're saying if we defend you, we'll lose our jobs." Ariana's heart ached. "Tell everyone to stay quiet for now. I'll handle this." But she knew she couldn't fight this alone, so she reached out to Eli. Together, they contacted the Federal Aviation Authority and shared every document she had, not just about safety violations, but about the discrimination she and others had faced. Racial bias in promotions, unfair flight assignments, denied training. It was all there, hidden beneath corporate polish. The investigation deepened. Federal agents raided Skyreach's offices, seizing records and computers. Social media exploded again. Only this time the tide began to turn. Former employees started speaking out, confirming Ariana's claims. One by one, they shared their stories of being silenced, overlooked, or punished for questioning orders. In a single week, Skyreach's stock plummeted by 40%. Investors demanded answers. Passengers began canceling flights. For the first time, the mighty airline looked fragile. Still, the personal toll on Ariana was heavy. She avoided public places, wary of cameras and reporters. Her reputation was split. Some hailed her a hero, others called her a liar. One evening, she sat by her window watching the city lights. Exhaustion etched across her face. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Flying isn't about the destination. It's about control, knowing when to climb and when to hold steady. That night, Ariana made a choice. She wouldn't just survive the storm. She'd steer through it. The next day, she stood in front of cameras herself. No lawyers, no scripts, just truth. The press conference was small but raw. "I'm not here to fight," she began. "I'm here to stand. For every pilot, engineer, and crew member who was told to stay quiet. For every woman who was told she didn't belong in the cockpit. For every person judged by their skin before their skill. Skyreach didn't just deny me entry. They denied honesty a place to land." Her words struck like lightning. The clip went viral overnight, amassing millions of views. Hashtags flooded the internet, cornering Stand with Ariana, Truth Above Clouds, cornering Fly Fair. The pressure on Skyreach became unbearable. Sponsors began pulling out. Regulatory boards froze their licenses. And behind closed doors, executives started resigning one by one, including Danner. But Ariana didn't celebrate. Not yet. Because she knew there was one final step. One last thing she needed to do before this chapter could close. Eli called her that evening. "You did it," he said softly. "They're falling apart." Ariana looked out the window, the city glowing beneath her. "No," she said. "Not yet. I haven't rebuilt what they tried to destroy. I'm not done flying." 6 months had passed since Skyreach Airlines fell from the skies of power. The investigation had exposed everything. Falsified reports, unsafe aircraft, discrimination, corruption. The company's name was now synonymous with failure and disgrace. But Captain Ariana Miles didn't smile when the headlines declared, "Skyreach Airlines files for bankruptcy." She simply looked out her apartment window, a cup of coffee in her hand, and whispered, "I told you truth always flies higher." For a while, Ariana stayed quiet. She turned down interviews, stayed away from social media, and focused on healing. The betrayal had scarred her deeply, not just because of what they did, but because of how alone she'd felt through it all. But even pain can plant seeds of purpose. One afternoon, Tara came to visit. "You know, people keep asking what you're going to do next," she said, smiling. "You could join another airline. You'd have offers everywhere." Ariana chuckled softly. "Fly for someone else again?" "Not this time." Tara tilted her head. "Then what?" Ariana looked at her friend, eyes glowing with quiet fire. "I'm going to build something better." Weeks later, the world began hearing whispers about a new aviation startup founded by a former Skyreach pilot. Its mission: equal opportunity, ethical leadership, and safety above profit. Ariana named it Phoenix Air. Because just like the mythic bird, she had risen from the ashes of injustice. Starting wasn't easy. Investors were skeptical. Banks hesitated. But Ariana refused to quit. She mortgaged her home, used her savings, and gathered a small team, people who believed in her vision. Among them were ex-Skyreach employees who had once been silenced, now ready to soar again. Piece by piece, they built the dream. A fleet of 2 refurbished planes, a tiny headquarters, and a mission statement carved in gold on the office wall. "We rise by lifting others." Soon, Phoenix Air's message began spreading across the world. Travelers loved its story, an airline built on integrity, led by the woman the system tried to destroy. Her story inspired not just pilots but countless dreamers who'd been told no, because of who they were. On the day of the airline's first official flight, Ariana stood on the runway surrounded by media, employees, and supporters. The sun glowed behind her, painting the sky in golden hues, a perfect metaphor for a new beginning. She stepped up to the microphone, her captain's uniform gleaming once again. 6 months ago, she began, I stood outside the doors of an airline that told me I didn't belong. They grounded me because I spoke the truth, but the truth has wings, and today we're flying with them. Applause erupted. Her eyes glistened with emotion as she looked at her crew, diverse, united, proud. Then she turned toward the plane bearing her company's logo, a phoenix rising through clouds, and smiled. When they shut one door, she said softly, I built a runway. As the engines roared to life, Ariana took her seat in the cockpit. Tara sat beside her as co-pilot, tears of pride streaming down her cheeks. Ready, Captain? Tara asked. Ariana smiled. Always. The plane lifted off the runway gracefully, sunlight glinting off its wings. Below, reporters and spectators cheered, capturing the moment that symbolized something far bigger than revenge. It was rebirth. Because Captain Ariana, Miles hadn't just destroyed a corrupt airline. She'd built a legacy that would change aviation forever. Closing narration. And that, dear viewers, is how a woman denied entry to her own airline took flight on her own terms, turning pain into power and injustice into inspiration. If Ariana Miles' story touched your heart, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live, where every story reminds us that courage can turn the darkest storm into the brightest dawn.